What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right, and indeed, we are going to go the distance. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. 40 days, 40 nights. Right back at it here this morning on this cold, but sunny, blistery, Wednesday morning here in the winter here in New York City. Again, it's your boy EJ Stewart, excited to be back here on 40 days, 40 nights. We have a great show lined up today. We'll be talking about the massive controversy that has become this Bill Belichick situation. He was left off the Hall of Fame ballot. We'll break it down and give you some of the conspiracies that are out there as to why Bill Belichick is not going to the Hall of Fame in his first year on the ballot. Seems quite stunning considering he has the most Super Bowls and he has been one of the most winningest coaches of all time. Not quite the winningest. Of course, he wasn't able to catch Don Shula, but he's second most winningest head coach in the history of the NFL. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. A lot of people are upset about it. We'll break that down. We also got some major music news. J. Cole dropped. J. Cole actually dropped. It was crazy to do last night's show, night 12 of 40 days and 40 nights, and talk about, hey, it seems like maybe there's something going on. I don't know what, but something seems to be going on. Maybe there's some J. Cole mixtape dropping or whatever. And then, we sign off, have a good night, everybody. You click the button to go off to do the rest of my night. And then, I think literally 5 minutes later, the mixtape was out. So apologies if anybody's listening to the podcast and being like, EJ talking about a mixtape that already dropped. He dropped it 5 minutes after I was done doing the live stream last night. So J. Cole dropped the dropped the mixtape. There is a lot of interesting elements to break down about it. I'll just jump out the window immediately and say, this bro is freaking rapping. Rapping his ass off, but rapping in a way that's just rappity rap for the sake of rappity rap. I mean, he's also talking his ish. So we're going to break that all down. So we got new Cole tape prior to his album coming out next week to fall off. We have Bill Belichick drama. We have AFC South drama being addressed because you had Kevin Stefanski being introduced as the Falcons head coach. He got his first opportunity to respond to Baker Mayfield. So we'll let you hear that. We also had a barn burner in Ann Arbor, Michigan, able to take down one of the undefeateds this season, Nebraska. That was a top 5 matchup happening, and we'll give you our thoughts on that. And we got a Marvel trailer to discuss. We briefly mentioned it yesterday. Daredevil Born Again, Season 2 trailer dropped. Like I said yesterday, just full advance, this was the trailer that I actually seen back at Comic-Con, but I think this is a lot of people's first time seeing the trailer, so I'm excited to talk about it now that everyone knows what to expect, and we now have a new release date for when we expect to see Daredevil this upcoming spring. And finally, a story that did not get to yesterday. I wanted to. I realized I was getting ready for this show, and I was like, did I get to the Tyrese Halliburton Team USA story? And I know, because of my Knicks allegiances and my hatred of the Pacers and everything that is Indiana at this point, you probably would have thought EJ's mentioned something about Halliburton or some guy he didn't like, but there was funny sound that he didn't play. And I'm getting ready for the show last night and today. I was like, I don't think I played that sound. So then I had to go back. I was like, you know what? Let me watch the end of yesterday's show. I was like, nope, I ended it with Kyler Murray. We didn't get to Tyrese Halliburton, but he was on the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James, and he tells a hilarious story about Team USA. I just find funny. Sometimes I just like to bring, obviously it's a dark world. There's a lot of serious stuff happening, but I want this show to be entertaining. I want it to be lighthearted. I want it to be an escape from some of the stuff that you maybe are experiencing, though it's certainly really tragic and really sad what's going on in Minnesota and just in this country in general. But I'm really thrilled about this show and how it's been going so far. Of course, you can catch all of these episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights streaming live, both twice a day, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. One note on that. real quickly, today's night show will be likely, I think I mentioned it last night, but it'll likely be at 5 p.m. today. I'm almost certain it'll be 5. If something changes drastically, I'll let you know. But check out my social media. I'll make an official announcement. 5 p.m. is when the night 13 of 40 Days and 40 Nights, you can expect that to be out. That is going to be, I have something cool coming out. Well, actually, I think I said it last night. So later tonight, my guy Dexter Henry, who I hope to have on 40 Days and 40 Nights at some point. Awesome dude. Obviously, he did updates on WFAN, so he did updates during my hours on the fan. He also did updates with Maggie and Perloff. He was obviously a gem and one of the best, kind of fill-in update guys when we weren't able to have the great Andrew Bogish on our show. What's up, Michael? Michael, give me a shout out there. And I'm really excited about this opportunity because he, of course, is like the host of New York Post Sports, and they do various different podcasts, various different shows, and he's a hardworking man. I mean, he's talking Jets. He's got a basketball podcast. He's doing all this awesome stuff. I've been a guest on New York Post Sports. Shout out to them. They do phenomenal work, and what they've been doing of late. And I'll be honest, I've been one of those folks that's been kind of like, how do I say this and like say it like without feeling like I'm like a crazy person. I see everything when it comes to like the media world, like, and like, one of the things that like Maggie and Pearl, and I'll mention them in a second as well. One of the things that they learned about me very quickly is that like I am like up on like every person in the media game and what they're doing and how they're doing. I may not watch everything they're doing, but I'm very invested. This is the world I'm in. This is the career I want to have for the rest of my life. So it's important to be invested. But I've always been that way. I've been that way since I was a kid, right? And I joke with my mentor and my friend Spike Eskin from 94 WIP that if I wasn't doing this, I would absolutely love to like run a radio station or like run a TV sports television network. Like me and my brother Kendall, we shadow GM, sports networks all the time. Be like, oh, I'd put this person on this show, and I'd make this show, and I'd make a brand new show called this. Like we do this all the time. So I say all that to say I see everything, right? So, and Dexter's my friend. So, of course, I'm seeing all the work he's done. I've followed Dexter for a long time prior to me even getting to personally meet him and becoming his friend. But I've seen he's been doing these Knicks live streams where they do a watch party where him and Brian Fonseca, who I've also followed for a long time, he also has done phenomenal work. They do live streams where they sit and they watch a Knicks game. And Dex has invited me on all bunch of different stuff with New York Post. So I've had more than my fill. He has treated me with nothing but love, and he's been awesome. But he knows I'm a diehard Knicks fan, and I think this is one of the coolest things. I love that they're doing this thing. And selfishly, I've seen so many of like other people I admire, or people that are friends of mine as well, go on the live stream, and I'm kind of being like in my head, I want to go on the live stream. I want to watch a Knicks game. I want to hang out at the New York Post studios for a day and just see what it's about and have some fun, eat some pizza or whatever. And I was like, Dexter, he asked me to come talk about the Knicks. What's going on? But, obviously then, he asked me, which I'm really excited about. I'll be going there tonight. Knicks play the Raptors a little bit later. And he was like, listen, you do Maggie and Perloff and you work early mornings. I was like, you know what? That's a good point. And the Knicks mostly play on the weekdays. Obviously, there are some weekend games, but I don't think I've ever seen them do a weekend one, to be fair. So I was like, oh, that's right. I had a full-time job. That required me to wake up at 4 a.m. Probably wasn't the smartest thing to be saying, let me go into Midtown and late into the night and watch the Knicks someplace and then travel home. So Dex was actually looking out for me. But selfishly, I was like, man, that was really cool. I just want to be a part of it just because it looks like a cool thing to do. And now I get to do it tonight. So if you, I'll have more details on my social media about, where to watch. I'm pretty sure it's just on YouTube. I think they stream it live on X as well. But there'll be plenty of details on my social media later today, on New York Post sports social media later today, and obviously Dexter Henry's as well. I'm sure Brian Fonseca also will have stuff on their social. So Knicks at Raptors tonight, live Knicks watch party for the New York Got Game podcast. So we'll be watching Knicks Raptors. Knicks won last night in a game that was a little bit tougher than maybe you would have liked, considering how much they got embarrassed by the Kings. But to be honest, the Kings have actually been pesky over the last 3-4 weeks. So I don't know if blowing out the Kings was really on the table given how well they're playing right now. The Knicks took care of business. They still won by double digits. Jalen Brunson is crazy to watch him play at this point. He could kind of just kind of like mosey his way through a game, and you're like, oh, he's not really having the impact that you expect. And then the fourth quarter comes, and then he could just take over the game and just like say, like Thanos, snap them out of existence, or you're done. And that's kind of what he did to the Kings last night. And then you look up and he has 28 points, and he meets all of his averages, and he puts together another brilliant performance. So Knicks win last night. They got a doubleheader tonight, so I'll be on live with New York Post Sports. Game is at 7:30. So make sure you follow everything New York Post Sports and all their social medias and all their YouTube or live streaming accounts, because we'll be on there watching the game. I'll probably be stuffing my face with food. I'll probably be hungry. I'm always hungry. Probably nervously watching the game. But I'm really excited about that. That's a great opportunity. So I'm really hopeful, really thankful rather, for Dex for inviting me on. And I will be, obviously because of that, I have to leave the crib a little earlier than I would normally. So that's why I'm saying that the 40 Days and 40 Nights night edition, night 13, will probably be a little early. I said probably around 5 o'clock. We'll have we should be able to still do mostly a full show. Maybe it'll be cut a little short, but it should be mostly fine. So 5 o'clock, that'll be the next edition of 40 Days and 40 Nights for today. But typically, we're on all the time, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., except for today, where 5 p.m. is where we'll begin. Catch us again on YouTube, New Generation Media, as we'll subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Make sure you just follow me on X, EJ_Stu, where we're streaming live on X. We're also streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. That's where Michael was in the chat. He said, what's up? That's why I said what's up to him. On YouTube, John Lean, who's always here. Happy Hump Day. Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up, John Lean? And really excited to have the people checking in on us. And like I said earlier in the show, and I'll remind you guys, all these episodes get podcasted. So 48, 49, you want to catch any of the previous episodes, first of all, you can always watch them on YouTube. They're all in a playlist. They're all up there. Every day is saved on there. So if you miss a live stream, you can go back on YouTube if you want to watch the whole stream again. If you figured you can't watch it because maybe you're on the go, maybe you're working out, maybe you're driving, maybe you're on the subway, whatever the case may be, every episode of 40 Days and 40 Nights gets podcasted. So you can go to our podcast network. New Generation Podcast Network is where you'll find all the episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights. That's where you'll search New Generation Podcast Network. And I will just say this, because I know a lot of folks who are checking out 40 Days and 40 Nights, they've been loyal supporters of me through the Maggie and Perloff show on Infinity Sports Network. That phenomenal show and that awesome team that we had together, and I was a part of that team. Very thankful and grateful to the great Maggie Gray, the great Andrew Perloff. If you are here because of that experience, you are going to want to watch or listen to Night 12. Because we had Maggie Gray on our show last night. Again, 40 Days, 40 Nights. She was on live talking about the Buffalo Bills. So that was a great thrill. Thank you so much again to Maggie Gray for coming on. And gave you a little update as to what may be happening with the future of her, Maggie, and Mr. Perloff. So if you want to get the latest on what to expect from Maggie and Perloff moving forward, and you want to just see Maggie and EJ rapping for 10, 15 minutes or whatever about the Bills in the NFL, and you want to get that nostalgia back, that feeling back that maybe you haven't had since the show was discontinued in December on Infinity Sports Network, Night 12 is the day for you to watch, or the show for you to watch. That's the one you're going to want to check out. Again, podcasted, wherever you get your podcasts, New Generation Podcast Network, where you'll find that. Of course, you could also find that again on our YouTube channel. Also, shout out to Michael Fliegerman from WFAN. He was on with me as well, talking Jets. He also did a phenomenal job. First show where I had two guests, and both of them no technical hiccups. So we're now 4 for 6 in terms of connection issues. I know Kendall was 1 for 2. One was great. One was not so good. Manny, also from the Maggie and Perloff show, a little bit of a problem there. That didn't go quite as well. But besides those two, all the other ones hit. Ray was good. Kendall's first hit was good. And Ray Jarvis, that's what I'm talking about, from the Rap Roundtable and WFAN. And then Fleegs and Maggie, both on the same show, both came up smooth and clear. So it was really fun to have both of them on. But again, especially for those Weedos and coffee drinkers who've been waiting to hear from Maggie and waiting to see us reunited again. Not the whole crew, but 2/5 of the crew. that was the episode to watch. So enough about yesterday. Let's get to today. Again, we got great stuff to talk about, and I do want to begin talking about this Bill Belichick situation. So Bill Belichick left off the Hall of Fame ballot for this year, the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame. So this is his first year on the ballot. The rules have changed. Previously, you had to be retired for 5 years out of coaching before you get consideration to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And now it's only 1 year. I assume that's probably because, I don't know, actually don't know why they did this, but that's the new rules. Because some people are probably like, well, Bill Belichick, was he just coaching? Well, yeah, now you're 1 year out, and if you're kind of retired, you're not expected to come back, they will put you as a candidate to get into the Hall of Fame. So Bill Belichick, by I think almost everybody accounts, they assumed he'd be a lock to get into the Hall of Fame, considering, again, like I mentioned earlier, he has all those Super Bowls, all those winning seasons, just the overall greatness and dominance that he experienced as the Patriots head coach for all those years. But he's not in. He's not in, and a lot of people were really upset about it, and probably for good reason. Listen, Bill Belichick, say what you want about him, and you can say a lot. He's come across as a jerk. I don't know him personally. I've never experienced him personally. And I think it is important when we talk about these public figures, we don't know them personally, and they don't have any criminal record or anything like that. It's important to know how they present themselves isn't always how they are. But he has presented himself publicly as a jerk. He may be a super nice guy behind the scenes. That's something I don't know. But he's presented himself as kind of a jerk. He has at times acted like a bully. And he obviously has these issues regarding the fact that the Patriots have been caught in multiple cheating scandals under his watch. Some of them directly linked to him, especially when it comes to Spygate. So he has baggage. It's not like this is just a clean ledger and this is just this all-time great coach who has no reason for anyone to feel a certain way about him. That's not what is happening. But nonetheless, he is still Bill Belichick. And Maggie mentioned the cheating and why, she feels like this is karma. And that's what I find interesting about this is good luck trying to figure out like what kept him out of the Hall of Fame. Because we can go through a number of things. Again, Maggie went straight to cheating, which I think is a good way to start. And I know that's where other people have gone as well. I know my good friend, also one of my mentors, Rob Harker from Fox Sports, he also was like, Bill Belichick, he tweeted, he said something, he wrote something like 2020 that he thought that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady didn't deserve to go to the Hall of Fame because of their cheating allegations. Now, I don't agree with that, but that was something he wrote. So he was like, and he posted yesterday, being like, I was ahead of the curve. I told you what was going to happen, that Bill Belichick was going to be left out of the Hall of Fame for this cheating thing. I don't know. Rob, obviously, he's in the industry. He knows a lot of people. I don't know if he's been talking to voters, and then he kind of had a feel that maybe that would happen. That's why he put that out there way back in 2020. But that's how he felt. And there's a reason for people to feel that way, that if we're keeping out people out of the Hall of Fame in the baseball for steroids, why would we not keep a coach out for cheating, in theory? So there's that aspect. Then I mentioned what I mentioned last night, which to me, I think is what the real deal is, what's going on. Actually, my friend Robin Parker is trending on X. Is that because of his take? That's crazy that he's trending. I assume that has to be why. Because I don't know what else he could be trending for. But anyway, yeah, he is. He's trending because of the Bill Belichick thing. But what's crazy about this too, though, is the Kraft aspect. You have Bob Kraft also going to the Hall of Fame in this same class with Bill Belichick. There is obvious beef there. There's obvious bad blood there. There is an obvious situation that is personal. These two men do not like each other. We saw that with the banning of Patriots staff members from scouting on North Carolina campuses. They have no love for Bill Belichick, for each other. Bill Belichick, no love for the Patriots, and then Bob Kraft, vice versa. Bob Kraft, I think, holds it against him that he let Tom Brady go, and Tom Brady, obviously the greatest player of all time, arguably greatest quarterback of all time, and Belichick convinced him that he was washed up. It was time to let him go, and then Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl, and Bob Kraft looks at Tom Brady like another son. And I think he holds that against him. I think he holds the Spygate stuff against him because it's put this stain on the organization as, despite all the championships, there are people from the outside that still will always look at the Patriots as cheaters, and he holds a grudge for that. And then there was the whole issue with him firing Bill Belichick. He didn't. They kind of tried to finesse it and finagle it as, oh, he's stepping away or whatever. But make no mistake about it, he also fired his ass. He told him, "You're not the coach anymore. We're moving in a different direction. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." And Belichick chose the easy way and said, "We're mutually parting ways." So there's no love lost there, and Bill is still holding a grudge for that. That I think is more what's happening here, because Kraft is on this ballot. He's going to be part of this. These NFL owners are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And then I'll get to a little bit of the threshold of what it takes to get to the Hall of Fame with this committee. But it didn't take many people to influence to keep Bill Belichick out, as we're now learning in terms of how many votes you need to get to the Hall of Fame. You don't think, and I know you haven't seen Conspiracy Theory or Tinfoil Hat EJ much on 48 and 49, I believe. This is probably the first appearance of Tinfoil Hat EJ that shows up periodically. And you don't think that Bob Kraft doesn't have the influence to talk to? It seems like he only needs 10 people. I have a 60 people thing and say, "Hey man, think about this, think about that." Just saying, maybe this is the year you decide not to like Bill Belichick for some reason. And then he's not on, and then he's not in there. I think, to me, that is an absolutely plausible situation, because again, there's real hatred there. Bill Belichick, I think, firmly believes, because he's hinted at it, that and people around him have hinted at the fact that there was kind of this mutiny and the word was getting around from the Patriots that he should not have been hired after he was fired by the Patriots 2 years ago, when he went into the coaching cycle. Like, he was trying to get a job. He thought he was gonna get the Falcon job. Like, he was in these streets trying to go back to work in the NFL, and the interest was minimal. And then the one team that seemed like they were like down the road with him, which was the Atlanta Falcons, all of a sudden randomly were like, "Actually, never mind, Raheem Morris, come on down." It just seemed weird. It seemed odd, and he noted that it seemed weird and odd. And I think that he is suspicious. And the word what got out that Arthur Blank did have a conversation with Robert Kraft, and that there has been rumors that Robert Kraft was telling people around the NFL that Belichick was bad news on multiple fronts. If Kraft and the Patriots are willing to keep Bill Belichick from getting a job, what's to keep him from also not getting the Hall of Fame if Bob Kraft feels that personal about it? Nothing. To me, nothing. Only thing would be his greater angels, because I don't think that that's right. I'll be honest. I don't know if there's any other personal thing that happened to him that I'm not aware of, because obviously I'm not in the facility. I don't know what he's been personally, that maybe would make this beef real. But based on the surface, just you cheated a lot. We lost the greatest quarterback of all time because you were a dummy and you were kind of a jerk to everybody. I don't think that's a reason to say don't hire this guy or don't put him in the Hall of Fame. But people are petty. Billionaires tend to be very petty. So I'm not going to put it past Robert Kraft that could be what's going on. But then there's other factors about this as well that make this interesting. I wanted you guys to see this tweet I had. I thought I had it saved, but I don't see it here, so I'm going to search for it real quick. But Mike Sando, who we've had on Maggie and Perloff's show, he's a phenomenal NFL writer for The Athletic, and he is a voter. And one of the things that he posted, which I thought was really fascinating, I think if you want to know about exactly what's going on, you should. You really should read this Mike Sando tweet, because he actually posted essentially, what the ramifications are. Ramifications, is that the right word? What the qualifications are in terms of how to get into the Hall of Fame, and maybe how this could have happened. Because I think we don't really know much about how the basketball works or the football works. It seems like everyone knows how baseball works. Everybody knows you gotta get 75%. You got 15 years in that modern era pool. And then I think the Veterans Committee stuff, I think that part of it people aren't as familiar with, or how that works. But the basic way, everyone knows how you get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Football, I still didn't know. I didn't know until I read this Mike Sando tweet. Basketball, again, good luck. I have no idea how they vote that, who's on the committee, how many votes you need, none. No idea. and to be honest, while baseball has had its issues, and I've criticized baseball for its Hall of Fame and feeling like not having these quote unquote steroid era guys is definitely been a stain on the Major League Baseball, or National Baseball Hall of Fame, despite the stain those guys put onto the game. But I do think the fact that they made it clear that everyone knows the rules and we all understand them, I think speaks to why it is still considered, in my opinion, the most legitimate Hall of Fame of all the sports that we have. But this is from Mike Sando, and he basically breaks down how the Hall of Fame voting works. Because again, a lot of people aren't quite familiar with how all this works. Before I get to that, I want to get to this comment here. We had a bunch of comments in the comment section about this Bill Belichick situation. So this is for J Till on Instagram. That organization is dirty and messy. They won on the field, but they were lacking integrity all around. And that's what Maggie Gray said last night, that karma is a B, as she said. Maggie, the first person to curse on 40 Days and 40 Nights, by the way. We've had curses through sound bites, but no person has cursed. I remember my good buddy Ray Jarvis, who he was on, when he was quoting a Nas song. He was like the realest N-word alive. I think I would say that because I don't know if you can curse. Again, like I said before, I typically don't curse on shows and live streams that I do. This is not. You can curse if you want. I don't want someone coming in and dropping crazy F-bombs. But it was just funny that Maggie just unsolicited, didn't ask, just like dropping the B word. It was just very funny. But anyway, she said, yeah, karma is a B. Like, people have looked at that organization a certain way, and perhaps this is all stuff coming back to bite them. And that's something that people have to reckon with, and that's what Bill's going to have to reckon with right now. Also, John Lean says, I dislike the Patriots and Bill, but due to the first ballot Hall of Famer, that seems to be the feeling for a lot of folks, right? Like, I'm a Jets fan. So I don't have to say anything more about how I feel personally about Bill Belichick, the head coach. I'm a Jets fan. That's all I got to say. And if I was voting and he was on the ballot, I really have no real second thought of not voting for him. Like, I would think, like, he's a cheat, but whatever. And I just put him in. And that would be it. But again, some people didn't feel that way. Also, John Lean saying Hall of Fame is a joke in all sports. Bill won 6 Super Bowls. If he isn't due to cheating, then take away the championships. And again, that is the aspect of this. Is what is this? Is it the cheating? We really don't know. That's why this thing is so tough to decipher and so tough to figure out, because we really have no idea exactly why he's not in. And I want to get to 2 more of that, but that is definitely the conversation that's happening about what exactly is going on. You also got PR Beast, Bill Belichick as assistant head coach. His system won a lot of Super Bowls. I mean, you want to say system head coach, again, that's totally fine. I'm a Jets fan. I'm not someone who wants to shoot bail for Bill Belichick, but he is Bill Belichick, and his system made a lot of guys a lot of money, put a lot of people in positions of success, and they won a ton of titles, more titles than anyone else during that stretch, or any stretch really in the history of the NFL. So, system coach, but I also think Hall of Fame coach if you ask me. So let's get to this Mike Sando tweet that I wanted to bring up. But stay in the comment section, man. Give me your thoughts. What do you feel about Bill Belichick not making the Hall of Fame? A lot of people feel really strongly about the fact that he was left off, and I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. This was Mike Sando. So some details about exactly what goes into someone being elected to the Hall of Fame. Because again, a lot of people don't have actually no idea, including myself. So Mike Sando. I'm going to try to read this fast and try to jump through certain spots, but I'm a Hall of Fame voter who saw Bill Belichick as a slam dunk. I don't know anything about voting results, but if this is true, and we'll find out officially next week, the question is, how could this happen? Before I list possibilities, understand this. Belichick, Kraft, Craig, Anderson, and Greenwood are competing for 1 to 3 spots separate from the 15 modern era finalists. 50 voters each pick 3 of the 5. Between 1 and 3 make it. 40 plus votes needed for anyone besides the top vote getter to get it. So it's a zero-sum game. Huge change made in 25. 250 total votes to go around for 5 candidates with a high bar clearance. Now, we count on the potential ways Belichick might get fewer than 40 votes when 40 plus on the committee think he's a Hall of Famer. So, a couple ways that could happen. Number 1, 4 or 5 voters who were strong advocates for senior players figured Belichick was going to make it regardless, so they funneled votes to competing candidates in hopes of boosting them over the 40 vote threshold. 2, let's say a few voters prioritize senior players on the thinking that Belichick will be back in the room next year, while the players on the ballot this year might disappear into the senior pool. So those are your actual like tangible. Why is Bill Belichick like forget about? I think he's a cheater. I think he's a scumbag. I think he's whatever. Like what like clerically, how could he have missed it? And Mike Sanders does a great job of clerically making the case that essentially you got to put 3 guys in, and there are people here, older guys who went through the modern era thing and didn't get in, have gone through years and years and years of not getting to this point. And if they don't get in at this point in time, you start to wonder if they ever get in. And there are voters who may have said, you know what, everybody's voting for Bill Belichick. Who am I? What's going to take for me to be the guy? Like who? If he doesn't, no one's gonna know he's not unanimous. Who cares about that? This is not like the pro baseball Hall of Fame when we know about unanimous Hall of Famer and all those things. Who cares if we just figure, you know what? Let me just put in a vote for Craig or vote for Anderson or vote for Greenwood so that we can find a way to get those guys in, because Belichick is probably a lock. And then those guys just, obviously they just miscalculated. They didn't realize how many people were also voting for those guys and not Bill Belichick. And then there's the other side. So then he also says, let's say a few voters found Spygate, cheating, disqualifying. Let's say a few voters protested new rules making coaches eligible 1 year after retiring instead of 5. I mentioned that earlier. Felt like a rule, in my opinion, when it was announced, I'll be real, felt like a rule that was kind of made for Belichick. I was like, why all of a sudden now, 1 year after you're getting to the Hall of Fame? I didn't really understand that. So he said, whatever the case is, I would see this as a repudiation of the new voting rules implemented in 2025, not of Belichick or any candidate not making it. There will be changes in the process, I predict. So again, if I was Mike Sanders, I'd pin this tweet if I was him, because I think it is brilliant. And actually, I'm going to retweet it right now just for the sake of anybody who's watching me on X who wants to go read the tweet, maybe in a different tab or whatever. Go ahead, because this was a brilliant breakdown of exactly what may have happened. So it's possible there are people who just like, I don't like Bill Belichick, so I'm not voting for him. But again, it's also possible that folks kind of miscalculated the situation and thought, well, of course he's getting in, but these other guys might not. Let me give these guys some votes and hope that they also may get in. And then it turned out he didn't have the right number. So some of that may have been a little confusing. I was also reading some of the, and by the way, he also mentioned it's 150 votes, obviously not 250. He got that math wrong. But, there were some things that were confusing. I was starting to read through the comments and trying to understand more. There's actually an opportunity apparently where he also could have got less votes and gotten in, less than 40. Like someone asked, if Belichick finishes with 39 votes and no one gets 40, is he in? And he said yes. Top voter of the 5 gets in. 1 to 2 more can get in with 40 plus votes each. So it's a lot of different ways how this could have went down. Then there was also this bizarre angle. I have no idea why this guy reared his ugly. I don't want to say he's not ugly, but this figure, because of just some of the rumors about the fact that he's been involved with making comments about Lamar Jackson, and I just hadn't thought about this guy in a long time. But then there was all this stuff out there that maybe Bill Polian was out here trying to get people to not vote for Bill Belichick, which seemed completely stunning to me. But those were the rumors that were getting out, and I'm trying to find you an actual a pull quote from Twitter, but there are so many of these that are calling Bill Polian names I don't want to put on here, because I don't have any personal beef with Bill Polian. But the rumor out there that he had to deny was that that he actually was responsible for Bill Belichick not getting in, that he actually had a huge influence over voters, because an anonymous voter was saying that Polian told voters Belichick should have to wait a year as penance for Spygate and Deflategate, which is a stunning thing for I know he was potentially impacted by Spygate, because he is one of those folks who was with the Colts, and he obviously was going against Bill Belichick every playoff, it seemed like. Now Spygate happened kind of years after the Colts Patriots rivalry was at its absolute peak, but the Colts I think eventually had beaten Belichick after Spygate was announced and stuff. But there was rumors they were doing Spygate stuff back in Super Bowl in the 2001 season. This goes back a long time. So if this is true, that is quite stunning. I think I can put this up because this feels the most fair way to do this. But here's a pull from an ESPN article. Seth Wickersham was all over this, man. And again, this person, I don't know who Mike Weisberg is. No disrespect. He calls Bill Polian a-hole. That's not anything that I would co-sign, but I just wanted you guys to see this article I want to post so you guys can read it. But real quickly here, it said here, multiple sources told ESPN that Spygate, Deflategate, the twin cheating scandals during the Patriots run came up in deliberations among voters. A voter who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that Polian, an ardent Kraft supporter and former general manager of the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts, a chief Patriots rival during their dynasty, told some voters he believed Belichick should, quote, wait a year before induction as penance for Spygate. 2007 cheating scandal that cost the team a first-round pick. Commissioner Goodell also fined Patriots $500,000, fined Belichick $250,000. Polian did not immediately respond to a question for comment. The only explanation for the outcome was this cheating stuff. A voter told ESPN on Tuesday. It really bothers some of the guys. When told that Belichick isn't the first ballot Hall of Famer, Peter King, who's a friend of the Maggie Perloff show, who didn't cast a ballot this year, said, "Holy F, O-F, I'm very, very surprised." That's a really funny. Thing from Peter King there. So eventually, someone actually ran down Bill Polian. I'm gonna try to see if I can find that tweet as well, because everybody's like, "What the hell is this true? This sounds insane that this is actually what went down." So Bill Polian gave a denial, but the denial was extremely, And I'll post this tweet because Emmanuel Opcho posted this. So he said, in an interview on ESPN on Tuesday, Polian denied telling fellow voters that Belichick should serve a one-year penance for Spygate. But he said he heard his fellow voters, quote, float that idea, but he insisted he didn't agree or disagree with the proposal. Polian said he voted for Kraft and even spoke up on his behalf during deliberations, saying Kraft had no knowledge of the Spygate scheme. Polian added that he could not remember with 100% certainty if he voted for Bill Belichick, saying he was 95% sure he voted for the coach and player. He voted for the coach and a player, most likely L.C. Greenwood. I was shocked to learn Bill didn't get in. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So this has now become, I talked about the show Traitors and how much I love this new show Traitors. That's essentially a whodunit with a bunch of celebrity people. We need to have a Hall of Fame whodunit. I would love to get 20 old NFL writers and Hall of Fame committee people, former GMs and presidents and stuff. Figure out who are the traitors, who betrayed Bill Belichick, who kept them out of Hall of Fame, and let's narrow it down. Find out who the faithfuls are. Find out who the traitors are, because we need to get to the bottom of this. This is insane. This is insane. I don't know how else to describe this. Belichick, did miss the Hall of Fame. We didn't know why. There's this report out there that apparently it's because Bill Polian was telling people, don't put him in. He deserves a penance for Spygate. They couldn't find him immediately. Then they find him. He says that he heard about this scheme, but he wasn't a part of it or agreed with it. But when asked if he 100% definitely voted for Bill Belichick, he only could give us 95%. It wasn't like this was a 7th grade math quiz where you got like 30 questions. You're like, hey, what did you answer question number 27? You're like, I don't know. It was C or B, or I don't remember. Like that, okay, I can understand you didn't remember your exact answer to a 30 question math quiz after you've done, 6 periods of schoolwork, right? And then you're like, oh, I don't remember I did in that class. That's one thing. This is the Hall of Fame. And there's only 5 guys that are up, and there's only 3 guys you're voting for. So how do you not understand who you voted for at that point? Also, like if you're taking it so not seriously, which Bill Polian, if you know anything about him, is the opposite of an unserious person. He takes himself extremely seriously. But if you're not taking it seriously enough, when you can't even remember for sure who you voted for, then what the hell are you doing on the committee? Which is why, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and a mongoose, like it just feels like he had something to do with this, just from the surface. And the fact that he wouldn't just stick with the denial, like he denied that he was a part of this, and he feels like Belichick deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You should go out there and say, yeah, I know nothing about this floating the idea of the Spygate. I know nothing about this. I voted for Bill Belichick. Just the only thing I can think of is he knows he's gonna get caught soon, because Mike Sando said in that tweet that we will probably know in a week what happened. So maybe he knows like the jig is gonna be up eventually. Here's a quote to hold you until I have to come out and make this public apology for how I screwed Bill Belichick over. But I don't know why he did this half denial. Why he did this half measure of like, I didn't float the Spygate thing. I did hear about it. I didn't agree or disagree with the proposal. What does that mean? Like, you're saying you voted for him, but you can't say if you agree or disagree that he should be suspended for a year from the Hall of Fame for Spygate. Well, clearly, if you voted for him, then you disagreed. Because those people said we should do this, and if you said, no, I'm voting for him, then you're saying that those people are wrong. Or at the very least, you don't agree with that. He's not even saying he can agree, if he can agree or disagree with the idea that that should be a thing that they should do. And then say, did you vote for Bill Belichick? I can't recall. Okay, what are we? This is Roger Clemens on at his perjury hearings. I can't recall if I was ejected. I can't recall. Andy Pettit must misremember. I mean, we're back to this. I mean, this is stunning. And I'll be honest, I feel like I usually have a good pulse for like what is going to get the sports community going crazy. You kind of have to for the job I had working on Maggie Perloff's show. And you kind of had to. I've had to also when I was working in news. I haven't mentioned much, but I also worked all these years at Spectrum News New York 1. So just knowing news value, what is a news story, what makes a story, like those are things that you have. I feel like I have a good ear and eye for, and it wasn't. Maggie mentioned it off the cuff yesterday. It was not in my rundown. I saw it broke literally maybe like 5 or 10 minutes right before I started. It might have actually broke during the show. I'm not 100% sure. But I didn't plan to like break in on the show because I was like, oh, that's crazy. I was like, well, I don't know why he didn't get in or what happened. I was just kind of gonna let it go. But this thing spread like crazy wildfire, just off rip. People were furious already, not even knowing this Polian crap. They were already like, what the hell? And it seemed odd to me. I was surprised at how angry people were. Maybe that's my Jet fanism, where I'm just like, oh wow, bad guy didn't have something good happen for him. I didn't cry any tears, but I did think it was weird. I was like, that seems odd. He definitely should be a Hall of Famer. But the thing went crazy. And then the fact that this became, again, a murder mystery whodunit about how he could have been out. And we're getting some clues that maybe Bill Polian, of all people, is a part of this is wild. It's completely wild. And again, to say that you don't remember who you're voting for, I don't want to be an ageist person. But that's concerning if you don't remember who you voted for something this important. And I know Bill Polian's up there in age. I don't know exactly how old he is, but I would assume he's at least 70, maybe even 80. So you don't remember who you are, and that's what Acho said. Like that's concerning. I don't think it's that. I think he knows what's about to come, and he's like, I got to give them something because I'm not trying to face this wildfire today. He probably didn't think that it would get out that he was the guy that kept Bill Belichick out. He didn't think he'd be Lady Olenna from Game of Thrones being like, I wanted to know that it was me. He didn't want that smoke. He didn't want any of that energy, and now it's going to come to him regardless of whether he wanted it or not. But I in my opinion, I'll be clear though. And because the unofficial rules of any show I do, I always say that number 1, EJ keeps it 100. Number 2, EJ duck and don't smoke. Those are the official rules. Number 3, kind of commandment. That's kind of an unofficial commandment of any show I do is EJ just wanted things to be fair. That is a quote from my mom. Lisa Stewart always wanted things to be fair. Shout out to my mom. But I've adopted that mantra myself. I am one of those people who is fundamentally trying to be fair in judging situations. So with that being said, if this is true and you had a guy whipping votes against somebody for essentially putting in rules that don't exist, Polian should be banned from the Hall of Fame. Banned. I don't know if I'm saying I'm taking him out, but he should not vote again, and I don't think he should be allowed back. You can't. This should not be allowed. I don't think that someone who's in the Hall of Fame should be gathering together people who are part of the committee and saying, hey, think about this, and we should put in like some unofficial thing for the sake of the sanctity of the sport, especially when you're compromised. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not like this is, let's say, who's someone who's like, it's not like this is John Schneider, although I guess John Schneider did lose the Super Bowl to Bill Belichick. It's not like this is who beat Bill Belichick. Okay, great one. It's not like this is Tom Coughlin, who's coming out being like, you should keep him out because of Spygate. I'd be like, well, he wasn't affected by Spygate, so he beat Bill Belichick. I guess maybe he was affected before, like, you know, the games he lost when he was a Jacksonville Jaguar head coach, but otherwise he really wasn't impacted by Spygate, so he shouldn't really care. Or again, if it's someone like Sean McVay, let's say, obviously this would never happen. Let's say Sean McVay had a vote for who goes to the Hall of Fame, and he was like, we should keep Bill Belichick out. At the very least, you say, okay, well, he's not compromised in the situation. He's not biased because he is competing against, he's not the guy that lost to Bill Belichick. God damn, that shows you just how great this guy is. I can't find people who haven't lost to Bill Belichick. I was going to say Kyle Shanahan. I can't go Kyle Shanahan. Who is a coach that hasn't lost to Bill Belichick? I mean, that's why he's arguably the greatest coach of all time. This is a funny exercise, trying to figure out who is someone that hasn't been impacted by Bill Belichick in a negative way. It is like Regina George in Mean Girls, when the principal is like, who here has been victimized by Regina George? Everyone raised their hand, including the principal, right? Like, that's what it feels like Bill Belichick. But again, take some current person that's in the NFL currently that has no ties to anything Bill Belichick has done, and that person said this. Okay, that's one thing. It would still suck, and I would still say that person shouldn't have a vote again, but that's one thing. To be someone who was so tied into the situation where you were losing games on the road in the playoffs, and we've heard the story, we've heard stuff that Peyton Manning has said about how they went into those games against the Patriots assuming the Patriots were cheating. They had all different kind of mechanisms, all different kind of changes to how they operated, thinking their locker room was bugged, thinking that their headsets were bugged. Like, they just went through every assumption that the Patriots were cheating. That's, I don't think, by some kind of accident. Like, I don't think they're like, oh, we're just paranoid. Like, we saw Spygate happen, so they had some, clearly, they had some inkling that something was going on, and they were right. So, and by the way, the Colts were screwed twice by the Patriots for cheating scandals, because not only Spygate was a direct thing, but remember, Deflategate was against the Colts. Now, Polian, I think, was gone by then. That was Andrew Luck. But, you know, Polian's still obviously part of the Colts family. The Colts have been very much victimized by Bill Belichick. So, he's too close to the situation. You can't have this guy being the person that's saying, hey, we should stand up for what's good. Like, you would have more Super Bowls if Bill Belichick didn't exist. And you're probably still PO'd about it because you think he's a cheater. And guess what? He definitely cheated. No one can deny he cheated. Whether it was him going 5 above the speed limit, or whether you felt that he murdered somebody because of Spygate, whatever you think the crime was, it was a crime. So he did cheat, but you, again, were one of the victims of it. You can't be the person that's whipping votes together. If it was up to me, Bill Polian, you're getting the boot, man. We're getting the Apollo, umbrella cane, or cane. We're just yanking you off the stage. Like, you can't be a part of this anymore. You can't not remember who you voted for. You can't allegedly be whipping votes against Bill Belichick for the sake of putting in some kind of penance that you don't have any rule, that, like, you're not a judge, jury, and executioner for. It's just unacceptable. You can't have this. You cannot have this. And again, I'm not some Bill Belichick stan. I'm not some Bill Belichick supporter. But I always want things to be fair, and this is unfair. This is unfair. Those voters, if they didn't want to vote for Bill Belichick, you should just let them not vote for him, and let those people deal with whatever mess they got to deal with for not voting him in. But the fact that this was like some organized scheme potentially to keep him out, nah, that's ridiculous. Can't have that happen. So this is fascinating, man. I want to know what you think about what's going on with this Bill Belichick situation. Him not making the Hall of Fame again. He missed it. This is his first appearance. It's not like he's dead. Like, he will have other opportunities to make the Hall of Fame. I know a lot of people are very, very upset. That's part of the reason why I also was kind of like not going insane. I'm like, well, he will eventually make it. But to be fair, I am one of those folks who like Ichiro, I think, wasn't unanimous. I went insane. Like, I will go insane and stuff like this. So to be fair, again, I always like to keep things fair. I get it, but man, people are really upset about this. John Lean also in the chat saying should make the voters give an explanation. again, Mike Sando, I don't know how, but he said that we should know more information next week about what happened. I know in the NBA, they made it clear now with the transparency of the awards, where now every person's vote for the awards is public, which I supported 100% when they announced this was going to happen, because there was some weird voting that was happening, and there was some bad votes that were happening that I thought were ridiculous, and I think we need some transparency. What I hated about it is because people take things way too seriously, it's become almost like a way to dox people, where it's like, you didn't vote for this, well now we're gonna come down on you and like say you should be fired, and a lot of fans of these teams or these players like are coming after people in a way that's like, I'm like, all right, I wanted transparency, but you idiots can't be normal. Like, just be normal. Okay, we learned that this person didn't vote for Jaylen Brown for All-NBA third team when he should have made it. Yeah, you voted for, DeMar DeRozan, who missed 50 games, and that's a terrible decision, and we should know that you made that terrible decision. Or you should at least explain yourself, which is what John Lee is saying. And again, on RIP, I 100% agree with that. Unfortunately, what happens is people don't know how to take sports as just sports, and they want to go crazy, give death threats, all this crazy stuff. Same thing happened with the AP poll in football. We've had the AP poll. It's always, I don't think always been a joke. I think typically we end up getting mostly the right rankings. It's not like we have something egregious like, Sam Houston State becomes the #1 team or anything like that. So it's mostly fine, but people will notice that like, hey, this team didn't get ranked here. Why? And then you can actually see how everyone voted. And then there'll be some people that will have votes that just don't make any sense. They just don't add up in terms of why you would come to this conclusion. And again, because people are crazy and they don't have any chill, they're going after reporters. And these are not even like, the NBA people, sometimes those are more established. Sometimes you're talking about an ESPN person. Well, not to say that they should be allowed to be harassed and stuff. But these are people who are established. They'll be fine. The AP poll for college football, these are like beat reporters. These are like people who are, the UCF beat reporter has an AP vote, right? Or the person who's covering Northwestern football may have an AP vote, right? And like that person now is getting like doxxed and getting like destroyed on the internet. I'm like, guys, like it's not that serious. So I go back and forth. I was someone who was totally 100% for full transparency when it came to voting for all awards and Hall of Fames, because of the shams that have happened with awards, with Hall of Fame for baseball, and for all different various things. I'm kind of now on this fence of whether or not that's something we should do. Again, I'm curious if we will actually learn how everyone voted, if that's something that they do with the NFL. I'm not 100% sure, but a absolutely crazy story nonetheless. Bill Belichick out of the Hall of Fame. All right, let's get to some other stuff here, man. And I'm really excited to talk about this. So, I mentioned before, this is a sports-centered show, but there will also be conversations about pop culture and other different things and interests of your boy EJ Stewart. And one, of course, is hip-hop. I'm a huge hip-hop fan. And we got massive news over last night. And it was something I talked about last night during the live stream, because there was these tracks that showed up on the streaming service Even that had J. Cole freestyles on it that then quickly disappeared. People didn't know what to make of it. People didn't know what was going on. Well, it turned out that J. Cole was planning to drop a little bomb. J. Cole officially dropping a 4-song mixtape, 4-song mixtape, EP, whatever you want to call it, Birthday Blizzard 26. This was hosted by DJ Clue. It has 4 freestyles of J. Cole rapping over various different, ironically, bad boy beats in terms of, from the bad boy era of the 90s and early 2000s. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, if there's any meaning to that. We'll get to all the meanings and entendres, all the things we want to talk about that and about this mixtape in a second. But Cole drops this 4-song mixtape / EP, whatever you want to call it. It is a prelude to The Fall Off, which is this very anticipated album that will be coming out in just a week, a little more than a week now. And I'll say this off rip. J. Cole, there have been a lot of questions about how could he come back from what happened with Kendrick Lamar. There were a lot of questions about, can he talk greasy the way he was talking greasy about being the best rapper on the planet? when you were in many ways brought to the stage to battle one of the other greatest rappers on the planet, and you put out a song, you didn't like it, and then you apologized for it, and you said that that guy was amazing and that guy should be allowed to diss you as much as they want, and that you were going to take it on the chin and move forward. A lot of folks said that it was going to be tough for him to come back from that and then be the J. Cole we've seen, I feel like, for the last, I will say 6 years. I say starting around 2019, 28, so that's more. That's like 7 years now almost at this point. Where I've said, and I've said consistently, I think J. Cole's been rapping the best for about 6 or 7 years. What he's been doing on these freestyles he's done, what he's done on these features that he's been doing, on his own songs. I don't think you can find somebody that's been rapping better than J. Cole. And you can give me the top of the top, your Drakes, your Kendricks, your those folks. You can give me some of the guys who aren't as like commercial appeal, but still amazing artists, amazing rappers. You can give me Freddie Gibbs. You can give me Pusha T. You can give me who else do you want to throw in there? Benny the Butcher. You can give me all those folks. I think J. Cole's been out rapping everybody. But it becomes tough when the way you've been out rapping people has been this idea that you've been just barring people to death, and a lot of it centered around this idea that you are the best, and I dare someone to tell me I'm not the best, and you're showing in these songs why you are the best. J. Cole had a very interesting approach to how he approached this mixtape, because he is talking greasy still about how he's the best, and the big question, would he address anything about what happened in 2024? He did. He addresses it a bunch, actually, several times. But he also is throwing shots. Now, who he's throwing shots to, we could decipher and figure out where you think the shots are coming from, or why they're coming from, why they come to certain people. But it seems like he's throwing shots. They are kind of similar. They're in a similar nature to how his freestyles and mixtapes have been this whole time. Well, not mixtapes. His features have been during this run, where it's kind of similar, where he's kind of like alluding to things that could be the shoe could fit to a lot of people, and a lot of people could then wear it. But again, who wants to challenge J. Cole to a battle rap? Nobody before 2024. Now maybe more people be willing to enter the ring and diss him because they saw what happened with Kendrick Lamar. But I'll just say off rip, man, this is insane level rapping. This is, I mean, we saw the Diss 2 Track 2 song, which was, him, rap. It was basically story. This is like storytelling aspect of rap. He was doing his version of Nas's Rewind, which he did a phenomenal job on. And this is different. This is him just getting on instrumentals that we all know and love: Money, Power, Respect, Victory, Who Shot Ya, Can I Live by Black Rob, and just going crazy. And I think we're at the point where it's fair to say, like I said last night, I think we're past what happened in 2024 in terms of like that having a real tangible impact on his career. I see the reaction to, first of all, I hear the music, which was top tier. Then I see the reaction to the music, which is overwhelmingly positive. I look at that and say, how can I sit here and say that, oh, this thing hurt him in a major way? Now, I said, I can feel how I feel about it, and I want to get to that a little bit second. I can feel how I feel about it, but for the masses, I think he's going to be able to move on with his life and still talk Greasy and still be J. Cole and be totally fine. I don't even think that Kendrick fans hate him enough or want to talk about him enough that they would like hold this against him. That's just the vibe I got last night watching the reaction to J. Cole's mixtape. But here's what I'll say on the whole thing as well. I don't want to make it all about 2024, though we will talk about some of these illusions and so many things that he was rapping about. This J. Cole, this version, is why I was so mad. And I think for the folks that have tried to defend Cole, and like, again, I'm a J. Cole fan, so I'm usually these are my people, so I feel weird being on the other side of this. But like, this is why I was so furious about his decision. Now, he can do whatever he wants, he's a grown man. But me, I see a rap battle, which is how something that's been ingrained in the history of hip hop. You cannot separate it from what hip hop is, what rapping is. The idea that you're up against opposition. That's just what it is. And J. Cole is someone who respects the history of hip hop. So I don't think he would even lie to your face and tell you that that's not a big deal, or that is not a part of the fabric of the art form. It is. But to me, I heard this greasy version of Cole and said, this guy beats Kendrick Lamar. I'm sorry. I also love Kendrick Lamar. I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. Again, I'm a fan of all these people. I hate the fact that we're in the stan culture world where it's like you can't like all these people. I love Kendrick Lamar. I have always felt like J. Cole raps better than Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar has put together better albums. He's put together a better body of work for his solo projects. I would say that. I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but it's been better. I think that is almost undeniable. I'm talking about just rapping, getting on the instrumental, just going crazy and barring someone up for 16, 24, 36, however many bars you got. I'm taking J. Cole over Kendrick Lamar. I'm taking J. Cole over Drake. I'm taking J. Cole over everybody right now, currently. That is like actively rapping. Obviously, Jay-Z isn't really an active rapper, but when he shows up, he usually shows up in major ways. And that's not a disrespect to these guys. I think Pusha T can rap with anybody. Malice, as we saw on the Clips album. Also, right now, he has a claim as maybe the best rapper alive. Like, there are a ton of amazing rappers right now. But I'm taking Cole. And that's why this thing was so frustrating, because I'm like, this version of Kendrick is not out rapping this version of Cole. He isn't. Drake is a great rapper. I think Kendrick can rap with Drake, which is why he ended up winning a rap beef for various different reasons. One, he rapped extremely well. Two, he strategized extremely well. There's a lot of things that can go into a rap beef. I think Cole, which he says on this mixtape, is a step ahead of everyone else when it comes to bars. And that's part of the reason why I listen to this. And I'm like, Cole could have done this and probably won. Well, yeah, he had to throw in some shots at Kendrick Lamar, but he had to be smart about it. But he's a smart enough MC. He's a smart enough writer that I don't have concern about that. Like, I feel like, and I saw Ray say this when he was on with us, that like it's almost like Cole fans like are afraid that he would lose. And that's kind of why they run to this. Oh, it doesn't matter who can win a rap beef. Oh, it doesn't matter who. Oh, you guys care about drama. It's like, no, I believe my team is smoking the other team. That's why I'm mad that we forfeited. I'm like, why? I think J. Cole is a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. Is he a better artist? That's a whole different conversation. Rapper, which is what rap battle's about. There's showmanship in it. There's other aspects of it. There's strategy in it. But the artistry and all the other things that Kendrick Lamar does so well, yes, those elements, they actually helped him in the rap beef. I mean, Meet the Grams, it's a lot of like Kendrick taking like a lot of the things that make him a strong artist and make his album so strong. Storytelling, use of voice, kind of the ability to change a mood with just his voice and a beat and a song and what he's talking about. So it's not like that did at all help him. But I'm saying that if he's going against this guy that was on his birthday, Blizzard 26, he's in a lot of trouble because he can't go to that bag. People are going to want to hear him just rap. See, Drake, in a battle, he's going to get personal. He's going to try to throw shots. He's going to try to get dirt. So Drake got into a game with Kendrick Lamar that I don't think he thought Kendrick Lamar wanted to get into, but Kendrick was totally with the ish, and then he got burned. Cole, I don't think ever had to go down that lane. That's my opinion. But with what he did with this, just leaving 24 behind in terms of that aspect, and that's why I was upset. This is incredible rapping. I've listened to 99 Build freestyle at least 15 times, maybe 20 times. Money, Power, Respect is already been one of my all-time favorite rap songs. I don't know where I'd rank it if I was ranking my favorites, but if someone came to me and said, is Money, Power, Respect one of your 10 favorite rap songs, I would have to pause and say it might be. Like, I love Money, Power, Respect. I love the instrumental. I love the locks. I love DMX. Like, it's one of my favorite songs. So him, J. Cole, one of my all-time favorite artists, rapping on Money, Power, Respect, I'm already in. But then the bars in this are crazy. For me, I felt like of the four, 99 Build I thought was by far the best. The first joint off of Victory, I don't have the track list in front of me, but the first joint off of Victory was probably the weakest. It was none of this was weak. It all was good, but it's probably just the weakest. I felt like that felt like the most freestyle. That felt most freestyle-y. Like it's almost like he went to a radio station. They just threw him beat, and like he's trying to rap a verse that maybe doesn't quite match with the beat, but the bars are sick anyway, so you live with it. And again, for this, I didn't mind that because to me, like, again, this was not supposed to be like this super put together feel of like an album. It's a mixtape. It's a Clue mixtape. Awesome, by the way, to have DJ Clue as hosting this and be a part of that, and that added to the throwback feel of this project. But 99 Build is crazy. The Golden Goose freestyle also crazy, and I want to get to that aspect of it too. And because the people say, "Oh, you only care about drama. You don't care about drama." I want to keep repeating. This is just phenomenal rapping. You just want to hear someone how they can use their voice, how they can keep a pace, how they use rhyme schemes, all those different things. He's doing it at an S tier level. He's doing it at a level that only the greats have been able to do it. The absolute greats have been able to do it. But again, he's saying things in these songs that are important. So again, let's go back to before we get to Golden Goose, let's go back to the first track, which I think was the Bronx Zoo freestyle, I believe. He mentions that I was in the top 3 and then I fell from the apology. I fell from my spot. Now I'm coming now, but he's okay with that because now he feels like he's in a position to actually climb back all the way back from where he was. So and he frames the apology a couple of times in that same way, where essentially it's like, I apologize now. Y'all don't think I'm top 3. Y'all don't think I'm that good anymore. So now this is going to be my opportunity to show why I'm still the best. And I'm going to do it by just being the best rapper, just rapping as well as possible. Which, again, it was a question I literally asked Ray in the video that we had that now has over 10,000 views on TikTok. Like, can you do that given what happened? That's the plan J. Cole put together. But it's not the entire plan. Because he does a lot of that. He references that battle. But then he also has plenty of lines here throughout the mixtape that do make me wonder, will we see some kind of part 2 of this whole ordeal? Because I go to the Golden Goose freestyle, particularly with J. Cole, and he says some lines that I am still trying to determine who he's talking to. And it's very funny, and I find it quite ironic that you have Drake fans and Kendrick fans trying to say, no, he's talking about Drake. That's the Kendrick fans. And the Kendrick fans say, no, he's talking about Kendrick. And I'm like, if all you guys can talk about how J. Cole was weak for being a West End, why are you guys so afraid of who he's talking to? Again, goes to my point. I don't think that these people want a problem with J. Cole because of the caliber of rapper he is. But he mentioned these lines, man, about Lucian Grain, who, if you don't know who Lucian Grain is, he is the, how do I put this? He's like the head of UMG. He's like, I think he's the CEO. I think is his exact title. But Lucian is basically he's being sued. He's the guy that's being sued by Drake, by the way. Like, essentially, this whole thing is about, this deal that Lucian made with Drake, and I guess Drake thought he'd get his masters back or his distribution back, and that's not happened. And he said that Lucian has concocted a scheme to lower the value of Drake as an artist by getting Kendrick Lamar to diss him and get this rap battle going. And then they have then used Spotify and their own means to then boost Not Like Us to be this crazy big hit. And that's why there's this mega situation happening. But again, for someone to be like, oh, I'm not about beef and not all about talking ish or whatever, I don't want drama. When you rap lines like, a lot of rappers make dough, then be prone to lose it. For crumbs, dumb ends sold their soul to Lucian, universal distribution. But I own the music, best and still breathing, living, no confusion. You're talking about selling your soul to Universal, selling your soul to Lucian Grange, who now, I think lamest people before the beef and before all the stuff had no idea who Lucian Grange was. They just want to listen to music. They don't care. now he's become more of a household name because we know about like this relationship he's had with Drake. And Drake is also like when they were on good terms. Drake is like talked about him a lot and referenced him in songs and stuff. But now we've talked about him in a whole different manner. You're even mentioning Lucian and even going down that path of universal distribution and people selling their souls. You cannot throw that stone and then hide your hand saying I'm not talking about anybody in particular. When we think of that, we think of the Drake and Kendrick situation because these are all three artists that are all under Universal. Because J. Cole mentions it, I'm also in Universal, but I own my own music, so don't give me like I sold my soul. I did not. So who's he talking about? Who are these people that make all this money but then lose it, and then all they got is crumbs, and they sold their soul to Lucian? Your guess is as good as mine. There's part of me that looks at that and says, on the surface, those feel like bars at Drake. Drake is the person that's been complaining about this deal he signed with Lucian that he's trying to get out of, that he can't. He makes a lot of money. He does. It sounds like he doesn't have his distribution because we saw in like the response that Universal had to one of the lawsuits. Lucian Grange and his lawyers put together this idea that Lucian Grange and Universal owns most of Drake's catalog. So their thing was, why would we try to devalue someone where we own their music? I have no idea what Kendrick's new Universal deal is that he signed after he left TDE. I don't know if he has distribution. I would assume he did. I assume that's why he left TDE. But I don't know that for sure. I have no idea. Those bars feel like they're at Drake. But, I mean, again, also could those bars be at Kendrick? Could he be saying Kendrick sold his soul to Lucian because he was, as like the Drake narrative that's been pushed, he was kind of Lucian's champion to go after Drake, a guy that he wanted to devalue, and he successfully won. But you sold your soul to a guy that in the end of the day, he's still making all this money off of you, and maybe he knows that Kendrick doesn't have his money or his distribution. I have no idea. So that's crazy. I mean, and going back and more stuff here, like then again, this Golden Goose one. I keep listening to 99 Bill because I think that's the best song, but I keep having to listen to Golden Goose and trying to figure out what is J. Cole talking about here. Because then he also says, if the streams say you winning while your tours are still losing, when the math ain't math, and of course you're juicing, the beat, and apologies, I can't, there's no beat, and I'm not a rapper, so I know this doesn't sound nearly as good as J. Cole is saying it. I promise these bars are crazy. That means the box is boosting, cut the tough guy image, it's not conducive to breathe, and don't gamble with your life. Because the ops is cruising. Word to Mike Vick, your dog might get shot for losing. Again, who are these artists that have all these streams, but they have to cancel their tours or their tours aren't making money? Kendrick Lamar's tour with SZA, that was sold out everywhere. I know the Drake. That's why it's so confusing, because there's been Drake narratives from the Drake side of this that try to paint it that tour wasn't as successful as it looked. I was there. I was at the show at MetLife Stadium. I've seen the pictures. I've seen just the scenes everywhere. There is no evidence that tour didn't do phenomenally well. Doesn't mean Cole just because you be hating just for sake of be hating, but I don't see that as being a thing. But the streams say you winning, but your tours is losing. When the math ain't math, of course you're juicing. Again, there's plenty of other bars throughout this whole situation with Cole talking about bots and people using bots, which has now become a whole big part of this whole conversation as well with hip hop to boost their numbers. And that's what he's talking about here again. That means the bots is boosting, cut the tough guy image. It's not conducive to breathe, and don't gamble with your life because the ops is cruising. Word to Mike Vick, your dog might get shot for losing. Again, it's one of those, the shoe wears it. If the shoe fits, wears it. Those feel on the surface like they should apply to Drake. But if Cole just also did Port Antonio, by the way, 2 years ago, and he bigged up Drake in the biggest way possible. So it seems odd that in a year and a half he would then be taking. If you take this as shots at Drake, extreme crazy shots at Drake. Like this is like if it is for Drake, it's like very clear. But again, you could actually absolutely also say this could be Kendrick Lamar because Drake has mentioned about Kendrick Lamar pushing this tough guy image. And the thing that made me pause about this potentially being about Kendrick was the part when he said, "Word to Mike Vick, your dog might get shot for losing." Like, remember, in this whole ordeal, it kind of got forgotten about. One of the Drake's security guards got shot outside of his house. I think the guy didn't die. Thank goodness he survived. But during the real like heat of the beef, like one of Drake's security guards got shot. And when I see, and then of course Drake had the album, For the Dogs, All for the Dogs, whatever it's called. I hate that album, but nonetheless. Word to Mike Vick, your dog might get shot for losing. To me, that almost feels like that could be him explaining why he didn't get a part of this beef. Because he's like, Kendrick has all these bots. He's been juicing. He's acting like he's this tough guy. And if you lose to this guy, your people may get shot. I'm like, well, that also, I mean, like you can definitely put that together and make a case at those bars again for Kendrick Lamar. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's some stuff about Simba, and they call me on Simba. Really, you should be saying I'm your father. That seems like a shot at the Bay Area rapper Simba, who he definitely dissed J. Cole after the whole apology situation. There are some shots at Joey Badass that I actually, to be honest, didn't pick up on until I actually saw people writing about it and then listened to it and then read the lyrics again. I'm like, oh yeah, no, these are definitely shots at Joey Badass. So, I mean, Cole is in a interesting position here, because he's been building this as like his potential like retirement album. And again, with him rapping at this level, I feel confident enough to say this will probably be his best album. Project, I'm always gonna hold, because I know how I felt when I first listened to Friday Night Lights. I know how I felt when I first listened to Warm Up. So I'll hold on Project, but album, now I'm comparing them to like Born Sinner. I like KOD, I think, a lot more than most people. I think KOD is a phenomenal album, but some people won't put it up there super high, but I like KOD. But to me, his best albums to me are Born Sinner, obviously Forest Hills Drive, and KOD would be my favorites. And then I think Off Season is extremely underrated. I would assume this album is going to be better than this if this is how he's rapping. That's the vibe. That's the feel that I got. I think that this is phenomenal work. And congratulations to J. Cole. Congratulations to the team over at Dreamville. The rollout was fun. It wasn't the smoothest. And by the way, I actually also do like the idea that he's actually doing this like direct-to-consumer thing. He published this on thefalloff.com and was powered by the Even app. And the Even app has like been this like very artist-friendly streaming service in terms of paying for music directly to the artist, and not having all this money and stuff being funneled all to all the wrong people, all the labels and things like that. So, and to the streamers, right? Because streamers are making crazy bread, and there's a whole conversation we can have about how corrupt the music industry is thanks to the influx of streaming. So I actually think it's really cool that he's done this. I know XV, the guy who is the inspiration for 40 Days and 40 Nights, the album cover right here, Popular Culture, that's one of his album covers. He also released his album, The Blog Era Is Dead, last year. He released it on Even as well. So I like Even. I had Even already. Even though this was not on Even, I have the app just because of that. And J. Cole also had like a long form podcast he posted on there as well. But I like that he did it. I will say it was not the easiest to figure out how to actually play this music. It was like, it was like, oh, pay whatever you want, which I thought was kind of cool. Pay at least $1, and dollar and dream made sense. I was like, I had no problem with that. So I was like, all right, I gave $1. I'm full disclosure, I didn't pay more than that. But then it was hard to I paid it, but then it didn't go through. It seemed like. So I refreshed the page, and then the music wasn't there, and I was trying to figure out where the music was. So I ended up paying, again, $1 to get the songs on. So it took me like 30 minutes just to play the music. And I'm annoyed because I'm on Twitter trying to figure out other people are having these issues, but I'm also seeing spoilers about what is being rapped about. So I'm like, I need to freaking get this album or this mixtape out. I finally got it, and now I'm all good. But no, it was what a wild night last night. I mean, again, I have no doubts about J. Cole being one of the all-time greats and being someone who we're going to think about as one of the greatest rappers of all time, because of just social media, because of the narratives, and the noise you hear. You just don't know. whatever your response is going to be to an artist coming out until it actually happens. And then also, obviously, you don't know the quality of the music, so there's a lot of variables. I've been so fascinated by what this whole fall off era. I know this we've all been the fall off era, but this particular, like now the album coming out and the build up and the roll off for it, I was so curious what this was going to look like, because it looked like it seemed like it was going to look like one thing prior to the beef, and then because of just what people were saying and how they felt, it felt like maybe it could never look that way. It can never be that hype. It can never have that much support. It can never have that many people willing to give the flowers to Cole that he has earned over the years and years of him being a phenomenal artist. And he's getting them. He's getting them. Now he's got to just put the ball across the goal line and finish this. Again, for the 4-song mixtape, Birthday Blizzard 26 is on thefalloff.com. I'm not sure if it's anywhere else at this point, but go check it out. It is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Shout out to J. Cole. Phenomenal work, man. Let's shift gears here and let's talk some football here. I want to update you guys on a story that I also found quite amusing. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. It was early during the 40 days and 40 nights run that we've been on. And it was when Kevin Stefanski was announced he was going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And we heard from someone that I didn't expect we'd hear from in Baker Mayfield, because there was a Atlanta what's it called? I can't remember this. The AJC was the Journal-Constitution. Atlanta Journal-Constitution, D. Orlando Ledbetter. He posted a tweet where he had kind of made the case for why Kevin Stefanski was going to be a good hire for the Atlanta Falcons. And in the tweet, he said, Falcons, Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction to 11 other starters. QB Shador Sanders closed out last season with 7 starts. That was what the tweet said. Baker Mayfield did not take too kindly to this, and he let the chopper ring on one Kevin Stefanski. He posted this tweet saying, "Failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text/call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach." Baker Mayfield's a funny dude. First of all, whenever you call somebody, I'll say this, there's like this idea of sometimes there's two Americas, in the lighthearted way, not in the serious way, in the dangerous way. There's two Americas. Like, I'll be real, not too many melanated folks go to the pal when you're talking to somebody, when you're trying to get their attention and you're not happy about something. You know, we may say bruh or cuz or whatever. Pal seems to be only that other side. So I'm saying failed is quite the reach. Pal also feels a little bit like dated. Like, it doesn't feel like someone, Baker Mayfield, I guess, is in his early 30s. It feels like that's something I would hear from like a 55-year-old guy or whatever. But that was the shot he took, and immediately getting right after it, saying he was shipped off like a piece of garbage. Guy didn't call him. Can't wait to see him twice a year. So I said, ooh, here we go. The NFC South has looked at a division that's kind of sleepy. Well, wake up, because we got a new rivalry here with the Falcons. Well, it's not new in terms of the Falcons in the Bucs. That's always been a rivalry. But we have real beef, keeping the beef thing going with Kevin Stefanski now and Baker Mayfield. Well, Kevin Stefanski, he was at his introductory press conference. He was asked about the comments by Baker. Here's what he had to say.
Baker's somebody that I have a ton of respect for as a player and a person. I love rivalries in sports, and obviously Buccaneers-Falcons have a great rivalry. It's something that I'm excited about, but I would not get into the specifics of those type of things, other than to say I have a ton of respect for Baker as a player, as a person. That's a great team with a great player.
So you got Kevin Stefanski taking the high road. That's not surprising. Kevin Stefanski is kind of a low-key guy, so I didn't expect him to absolutely rain the chopper on Baker Mayfield. But he's acknowledging that there's a rivalry. He's acknowledging that this is a rivalry that's heated with the Falcons and the Bucs. So he's excited about that, but he respects Baker Mayfield and he respects the player and the person that he is. What I will say is, like I said before, I'm curious about, like, who's going to win this beef. At the end of the day, who's going to be able to look back and say, I put my stamp on this. I got the last laugh when it came to this Stefanski-Baker thing. And like I've said before, and I'll say again, I'll be real, I kind of think that Kevin Stefanski is going to have the last laugh here. I look at a Tampa Bay team that I think a lot of people were very high on this past season because of the success they had in previous years and them kind of being somewhat of an underrated team. This year, injuries mounted up yet again. You started to see their age a little bit in certain spots, especially with Mike Evans, failing to make 1,000 yards this year for the first time in his career. And Todd Bowles, it seemed like you saw the worst of Todd Bowles this year in terms of his limitations as a head coach. They decided not to fire him. They brought him back. And the offense took a little bit of a step back. Liam Cohen, now he's not there. Of course, he's in Jacksonville. He was their offensive coordinator. You just kind of look at the Bucs situation. If you're doing a stock arrow in terms of stock up, stock down, familiar from the M&P 500, Maggie and Perloff show, I think you're looking at a stock down for the way the Bucs are right now. I mean, what's the direction of that team? You lost a division to the Panthers. Yes, I know you beat them towards the end of the year in a game that you thought maybe would give you an opportunity to get you in the playoffs, but you needed, the Saints and the Falcons to have a certain result that didn't go your way, and that's why you missed out on a tiebreaker. But you lost the division to the Panthers. And this was a team that some people thought was like a sneaky Super Bowl contender. And then you kept the coach that lost the division to the Panthers, who had some major gas throughout the entire season. Baker's talking tough now, and Baker's gonna talk tough regardless of his situation. He's just that kind of guy. He's a likes to fight guy, as Jim Rome would say. But if I'm looking at who I'm betting on for the next year and a couple of years moving forward, I would bet on the Falcons, man. And that sounds scary, right? I would bet on the Falcons is simply words that you say prior to losing a ton of money. But I do think with Kevin Stefanski, the running game that they'll be able to establish still with Bijan Robinson and Algier, and we'll see what they do at quarterback. But I think Kevin Stefanski has shown that he could be a little bit of a chameleon. When it was Baker Mayfield and Juice Landry, and obviously they had Nick Chubb and the guy, what's the guy, Kareem Hunt. Like, they were a explosive offensive team. They ran the ball a ton, but they were a high scoring kind of team. And they leaned on their offense. They had a very good defense, but they leaned on their offense, and you saw why he was such a highly regarded offensive play caller for many years of his career. And then, things fell apart. Deshaun Watson came around. He was terrible. And the roster around Deshaun also started to fall apart, and you saw the team shift. Say, okay, no, we're going to have to be just a defensive team. We're going to have to win games 16-10. And then they started doing that. And then Joe Flacco came around, and then they were like, this guy has a golden arm, but he can't really run much, and people are going to stack the box. We're going to have to throw the ball 30, 40 times. We're going to have to live with some picks, but we're going to play that way, and we're going to win. And we're going to lean on the defense being able to bail us out of bad situations. And they made the playoffs that way. I've seen him coach different ways and for different teams, and it seems like he's not someone who has been so much of an egomaniac that he wants to win coaching with his offense being a certain way and moving the ball and whatever. He is taking whatever the identity is of his team, and I think that shows the signs of a very good coach. That's why I've been very high on Kevin Stefanski. And I think, to me, he's going to go to Atlanta and see, okay, I got a young, up-and-coming defense, and then I got this superstar running back. That is more than enough to me for Kevin Stefanski to get the ball rolling and get that thing going in Atlanta in a positive way. Again, with Baker, he may have a coaching change next year. Mike Evans looks like he may be kind of on the decline, to be kind. I don't know really what the future is of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't feel confident about their future at all. So Kevin Stefanski taking the high road, I think it's smart, in part because you don't create more headlines, also part because I do think at the end of the day, he's probably going to get the last laugh when this is all set and done. Real quickly as well, I mentioned earlier we had top 5 matchup in college basketball. Michigan versus Nebraska. Michigan hosting Nebraska in Ann Arbor. Michigan rallying at home to beat the Cornhuskers, who were undefeated coming into this game. This is Nebraska's first loss in this one. Listen, Nebraska, by the way, they were playing shorthanded. They didn't have a ranked master in this game. But I think there have been a lot of questions, and maybe deservedly so, about how good was Nebraska. I mean, this was an undefeated team, but they were not ranked, obviously, higher than 5. There were some teams that had one loss, including Michigan, that were ranked higher than them. In part because I think people looked at their schedule and still kind of wondered how good were they. Now, they've played enough Big Ten games that I feel like they probably deserve a little more respect. They already beat a ranked Illinois team on the road. They already beat Michigan State at home. So how many more good wins do they need? Now, their non-conference wasn't the strongest, but they've shown that they're a good team. This is one of those games, kind of similar to what I mentioned with the Chicago Bears when they lost to the Rams, where I feel like sometimes you get put over in a loss. I feel like that's a wrestling kind of thought process. I almost feel like Nebraska kind of got put over in a loss in this game against Michigan because yes, they did lose, and yes, they did blow like a 8-point lead in the second half. But you tell me you don't have Most, and you're telling me you're on the road, and you're still able to put up 50 points in the first half against a Michigan team that has been blowing everybody out, and that you're possessions away from closing out the game. They just had trouble towards the end of the game getting shots and getting easy looks, which is where, again, you're missing one of your leading scorers on the team. That's where it's going to be the toughest to score. But, I mean, Jamarquez Lawrence was an absolute flamethrower in the first half. He was on fire. I thought Jacobson played extremely well. Sanford was great. Sam Hoiberg, the coach's kid, played really well, stepping up in this one. Nebraska is for real. If there was any, this was going to be a big test on the road against a team that everyone thinks has a chance to win the national championship. How would they look? Shorthanded. The fact that they were up in this game, the fact that they scored 50 points in the first half against a team that we all respect, I think you got to look at that and say, yeah, I think, credit to Michigan for winning this game. And it's going to be fun watching this Big Ten kind of schedule and season continue for this final month, because they're not going to play again. But you'll have to see who comes out and wins this conference in the regular season. And the conference tournament is going to be an absolute war, because you still got Michigan State. You still got Illinois. You still got Purdue, who I think is still strong. This is one of the best basketball leagues in America. They're really being anchored by the top three teams, in my opinion, in Nebraska, Michigan, and Michigan State. I think there are folks who kind of wanted to kind of push Nebraska to the side a little bit, despite the fact they were undefeated. And they were 20-0. You can't do that after last night, I think. But credit to Michigan, man. I really felt like their defense tightened up in a major way. And they're going to be tough because they're so damn big. The way, you got Adai Mara, who's 7'3", playing in the middle from Spain. The fact that they're so big, and the fact that they get such easy looks. They didn't shoot the three ball well, and I think if you're looking at something for March to pay attention to, that's the one thing that would concern me a little bit, is will they be able to consistently make threes enough to win? But typically they're able to control the pace. Typically they're able to control the paint. And they can beat you in a variety of ways when it comes to various different scores. They're not a one-man band. They're kind of a collection of a team. And this was a test. This was a real test, and they're facing a team that I definitely feel like they could be seeing in a Final Four type matchup. They definitely could be seeing them potentially in a Big Ten title game type matchup. What a fun night in Ann Arbor, and shout out to the Michigan Wolverines. Big win. You got 17 points from Morez Johnson Jr. Again, Mara I thought was big in the paint, and Lendenborg, who didn't shoot the ball well. He was 0 6 for 3, but also made some key plays in this one as well. They're a good team, man. They're a good team. They punched my Zags by 40 or 50 points earlier this season. So again, college basketball is heating up. We're getting these top 5 matchups, these top 10 matchups, these top freshmen, top NBA prospects now going up against each other. This is, again, the time to really lock in on college football. Shout out to the Michigan Wolverines for getting it done, beating undefeated Nebraska here. Moving on as well, big news out of Marvel. The trailer for Daredevil Born Again has officially dropped. I will say this is obviously the trailer that I'd already seen, because there was a trailer that dropped at New York Comic Con. So that's a while now. I was kind of wondering, like, when would they drop this trailer? Now that I saw it in October, and they went till January. So it was I was wondering when this would actually find its way on the internet, and they kind of let it go for a while, and we didn't show up until yesterday. But the trailer, which features now for everybody the first official look at Jessica Jones, who's gonna be in the season. Like Fleek said last night, you see the iconic boots, and you wonder, is this the beginning? We got Jessica Jones back. Who else may be appearing in this season, or maybe a season down the line? Could we see the return of the Defenders? Could we see the return of Iron Fist? Luke Cage? Is Elektra on the board? Like, how many of these Netflix characters, now that they've really adopted the Netflix verse as officially being a continuation? Because before it was kind of like a loose adaptation they were kind of putting forward, the way they described it. And then when they did the creative change, they went back saying, nope, this is now a complete continuation from the actual show that you watched on Netflix to now this show being on Disney Plus. So are all those actors and all those characters in play to potentially join this show? Season 2 is going to premiere on March 24th. A couple of things here from the trailer that again I mentioned before, but I'll just say because now you guys have seen it. Couple of things. Number one, seems like Wilson Fisk is obviously still mayor, and he is in his full kingpin bag as the mayor. There are shots of him wearing the white suit when he's like in the mayor's office. We still see all those heroes and stuff that are all, locked up in their cages or whatever, the vigilantes that are in his lair, wherever he is. There's shots of him in some weird white getup. It almost looked like, it reminded me of like the Joker when in The Dark Knight, when he was doing those videos talking about all different, how he's gonna kill this guy who looks like the Batman or whatever. Almost looking like that. Very creepy, very eerie. We see him in a boxing match with somebody. So Wilson Fisk, it seems like the mask is fully off, which we kind of saw by the end of last season. The mask is really fully off in terms of him really trying to embrace being the kingpin and being the mayor of New York City, which is not obviously a good sign for the people of New York, for Daredevil at all. We also do see what appears like the romance angle bubbling up between Karen and Matt yet again. It's unclear if it's old or flashbacks or new, because there is also a shot of Foggy Nelson with the old hair. Again, is that an old flashback or is he coming back? There's been these rumors and these theories about whether or not he actually is still dead. I tend to think that he is not dead, that he's actually alive. But he also does look like the old Foggy Nelson from the Netflix show, not the guy who had the shorter hair when we saw him earlier this season. Oh, it should be season 1. So I'm not 100% sure if that's a flashback or not. I kind of think it probably was. Doesn't mean he's not actually in the season. But they seem to be putting the romance angle back with Karen and Matt. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the Matt and Karen romance. I don't know why, but it's never quite moved me in terms of like his dynamic in terms of romantic relationships that he's had in the show. Now his ex in the show, that woman who was like the psychiatrist who seems to still be doing the Kingpin's bidding. I don't say this in like a bad way, like I don't like the character, like I wish, but like she's like, the way she turned on Matt was just like messed up, and I like she is thumbs down in terms of how I feel about her. But I don't know if Matt needs a romance angle. That was probably the only thing when I saw this trailer. I was kind of like, do I need that? Like, is it natural that, with him and Karen kind of putting together, we saw at the end of last season, spoilers, we never watched it, this like team together. The team ended up being just like cops in like, Cherry and like, just like diner, people at the diner and neighborhood watch people. Like, it wasn't like actual, we were looking to find like Spider-Man. We were looking to find Punisher, but it was none of those folks. It was just like the community coming back to fight back against Kingpin. But we see that he's putting together kind of like an army, that's what he said, to put together. So does that bring people together because you're in this fight? Yeah. So could that be a reason why there's this love interest sparking back up again? Sure. Is it kind of what I need to see? Not necessarily. But I'm super, super excited of what's to come with this, man. Again, it's only a teaser. It's only about 1 minute and 18 seconds. But the fact that we're getting Jessica Jones part of this show is the biggest news. By the way, Poindexter, Bullseye, also a figment in this trailer as well. The fact that they added him to this show late last season, and the fact that he's now going to be a part of this universe continuing. I think when we think about the most successful castings of heroes or super villains or anybody in the Marvel DC world, we think about the best castings, right? You think about Charlie Cox as Daredevil. You think about Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. You think about Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, right? Like, there are some, obviously, of course, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Those are some of the GOAT castings, right? I feel like the Poindexter character that was cast, of course, William Bethel plays the role of Bullseye. That does not get enough credit as being one of the best castings we've seen from a superhero medium from live action. He is absolutely perfect. he is absolutely menacing. He's menacing in this trailer. Every time I see him, he scares me. Like, there are very few villains that I could think of when they showed up on scene. I was like, oh my God, somebody's about to die, and they scared me. I think of like a Deathstroke in Arrow season 2. I think of Poindexter. There are a few guys where they actually strike fear in me, where I'm actually afraid of everybody who's in the room. I'm afraid of what's about to happen. He has done a phenomenal job. They've written him extremely well. He's back in this season. I'm all in, man. I'm really excited. March 24th is when season 2 comes out. It's going to be an absolute, I think, blast. I think the fact that, like Mike Fleetman said yesterday, and I agree, now that they have kind of they know the story, they're not kind of wishy-washy, they're not in between stories, they're not putting together a season where they got to kind of combine a bunch of stuff together because they had to change the creative direction midway through. The fact that now they're kind of free to do this however they want, and they know what they want to do in terms of continuing it from the Netflix verse, which is what everyone wants. I think you're going to see a banger, man. I think you're going to see a banger. I think the fact that also Marvel Studios is pushing this show way more than they pushed Wonder Man, which I got to watch. I know that came out last night. It's the reason why I'm not talking about it, because I haven't watched it yet. But way more than they've pushed some of those other shows they've done recently, is because I think they've really, of the TV shows that are going to continue, we know Bob Iger has made it very clear he does not want Marvel to be prioritizing Disney Plus shows anymore. This seems to be the one that may be the exception, the one that they are still going to put money in, the one that they are going to continue to cultivate. So this one is the one that you're going to want to continue to follow. And I really enjoyed season 1. I think season 2 is also going to be a thrill ride, man. So one last thing before we get out of here, and I don't want to make sure I do not forget this one, because I forgot it yesterday. I think that's the first time I forgot an actual story to do on 40 Days and 40 Nights that I teased. But I just gotta play this, man, because sometimes I just see stuff and it's just funny sound, and I love funny stories. I'm a sucker for funny player anecdotes about stuff that's happened in their careers, and I think we all are. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of these athletes have been able to find their way into the media and be highly successful at it and gain big followings, because people are very much invested in wanting to hear these stories behind the scenes. Like, a lot of times, for various reasons, athletes don't want to open up really to like your quote unquote traditional media, and some of these stories that you end up getting on these podcasts you would never have gotten if they spoke to, Tom, Tim McMahon, or somebody who's like a Jay Glazer or something like that, right? So, like, Jay Glazer actually gets a lot of good stories, but you know what I mean? Like, the typical traditional media members sometimes don't get this stuff, and then the athletes, when they're just having a conversation, they're doing the podcast, they tend to get this stuff out. So I found this very funny. Tyrese Halliburton, again, I'm a Knicks fan, so I hate the Pacers. Halliburton has ripped our hearts out, and he has showed it to us too. Not only has he ripped his heart out, he's been very, very in our face about it, which is not fun at all, being on the Knicks side. He's obviously a phenomenal player. There's nothing we could say about that. He's killed the team, and he's just been a great player, just not against the Knicks. He's killed other teams too. He killed the Cavs last year. He was one torn Achilles away from maybe pulling off a massive upset in the NBA Finals last year. So he's a legit player. But this story he told on the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James was so funny, because a lot was made about the fact that some guys did not get playing time during the last Olympics. Namely Jason Tatum, this guy who had just won an NBA championship, who was a first-team All-NBA, who had truly kind of established himself as one of the absolute superstars of the NBA, had found himself on the outside of this rotation of players in the Olympics, and he was not happy about it. We saw him pouting. We saw him saying that he was using this as motivation and that he thought he should have been playing, and it became this whole ordeal. We didn't talk much about Tyrese Halliburton, who was also on that roster, who was also standing next to Jason Tatum, sitting on that bench, not getting any burn. Now, I think a lot of us kind of felt like he deserved it, because some of us kind of didn't know if he deserved to be on that team. Now we learned he definitely did, given what he did in the playoffs this past year. But we were like, we didn't know if he deserved to be on this team. We really don't know how good he actually is. Some people looked at some other guards, Kyrie Irving, Jalen Brunson. They were like, should other guys have been on that team instead of Tyrese Halliburton? But, okay, he's on the team. He's a 20-10 guy. He's all-star. Fine. But nobody was really crying about the fact that he wasn't getting time over Stephen Curry. I think everybody was okay and understood everybody's role in this team and why he was not getting maybe as much time at some of the other guys. But the way he tells the story about how he realized he was not going to get any burn is quite funny. So this was him with LeBron James on the Mind the Game podcast, talking about a film session that happened and the conversations that had to happen that were quite difficult.
We're in the back doing film before the Olympics start. And before it starts, it's like, all right, we're going to have the team meeting where we acknowledge that all 12 guys cannot play. Steve starts talking about how everybody can't play, and Bron is talking about how, in the 04 Olympics, I didn't really play that much, and you got to put your pride aside that, it's about bigger than you. And KD's over there like, at the end of the day, with 12 All-Stars, everybody's good. We're just trying to win, right?
Okay, so, they're saying, hey, listen, we got to have a conversation. Some guys aren't going to play, but hey, it's all for one for all. We're all a team. We're all All-Stars, and we're all just about supporting each other and helping us win, right? Halliburton's like, okay, I'm with this. It all makes sense. But then he starts to look around the room that he's in, and then he comes to an unfortunate realization.
Sitting there and I'm listening. I'm like, yeah. And as we start film, I'm like, but who are they talking about? Like, who are these? And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, he ain't talking about him. He ain't talking about him. I'm like, oh, they talking about me. I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, no, this is what it is. I was like, oh, I was sitting there. I'm watching film. I can't even pay attention to film. I'm like, damn, like, it's over. It's over, man. Oh, I ain't get no PT out here.
That's incredible. Like, and I would assume, and I didn't listen to the whole podcast, I'd assume at some point, like, Steve Kerr then talked to him about it. But the fact that was how this was introduced, hey, some guys aren't going to get playing time. But, we just got to be a team and all support each other, right? All right, let's go watch some film. And, like, they didn't address anybody. Like, they didn't pull somebody aside immediately afterwards. That was just, he had to come to his own conclusion and be like, oh, this team has Anthony Edwards, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, who is now a guy who's not going to play, Devin Booker, and, like, I'm a young player, the youngest guy on the team. I'm just establishing myself in this league. Wait a minute. Who am I going to be subbing in for? Where's my playing time coming in? Oh, this isn't good. I think I might be the guy that's on the bench. They talking about me. It's like that Drewski meme when he's at the Kanye concert. Where he's like, wait, I think that he's talking about me, and he's pointing. That was I'm thinking of, like, Tyrese Halliburton being in this film session with these future Hall of Famers, looking around the room, being like, I think Steve Kerr and LeBron and KD, they talking about nobody playing. I think they're just talking about me. I'm the guy that's not going to be playing. To have that realization happen in just like a team film session prior to watching film to get ready for the Olympics, I just found it funny. I'll say this about Tyrese Halliburton, man. He's an interesting guy because he has effectively found a way to play the villain role, but also be charming. I feel like Trae Young. I feel like Draymond Green. I feel like Dylan Brooks. Now, maybe those guys don't want to be charming, but I feel like they need to, like, find the school of villainy that Tyrese Halliburton has came up in, because he has found a way to, like, I'm a Knicks fan. I can't stand this guy, but I don't know how you don't hear that story and find that to be hilarious. And he does interviews, and when he talks about the Pacers or talks about the team or just talks about his career, it's hard. He always says the right thing. He just seems like a nice guy. It's hard to root against him. He's an easy guy to root for, except for when he's giving you the choke sign or his dad's on the court, saying we run this effing city to Giannis Antetokounmpo. At that point, it's very hard to root for him. You can't stand him. But then he puts on that smile. He tells these stories. He seems extremely humble. And you're like, you can't help but love the guy. I just found that to be a funny story. And I just thought it was a funny way to end in the show on a light note with Tyrese Halliburton telling this story about how he learned in a very awkward way, sitting in front of his entire teammates, that he was going to be the guy who was going to be the 12th man on Team USA for the 2024 Olympics. But he got the gold medal. And as LeBron said in the podcast, he posted the post on X, when you get an A on the project but you did no work. That was essentially Tyrese Halliburton. He did not contribute very much in terms of on the court for Team USA during that Olympic run, which was not a cakewalk. They had a very tough semifinal game against Serbia. They had a very tough finals game against France, which essentially ended up being a road game because France was the host country. And they won thanks to the exploits of Stephen Curry. But, man, what a funny story from Tyrese Halliburton. But and that's where we're going to leave it today, man. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this edition of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This is day 13 here. We're trugging along. Again, programming note that I mentioned earlier that I'll post on X as well in a little bit. We'll start night 13 at 5 p.m. today. 5 p.m. start. I'm going to New York Post Sports today. The New York Got Game live stream, Knicks live stream show that they do. My guy Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca, they host it. We're going to be watching Raptors at Knicks. So you're a Knicks fan, you want to check out your boy and see the kind of lunatic that I am typically watching Knicks games. Like during the game last night, I was listening to the J. Cole album or mixtape and watching Knicks game at the same time. And there was like a non-call where like someone ran over Jalen Brunson. I think it was Precious Achua. And like Andrea was like doing something in front of me. I forgot. She might like, I don't know, maybe she turned the TV down. I don't know what she did. She did something. But like something happened, and like I didn't actually curse because I didn't want to curse, and I was also listening to my music. I wanted to hear the music, but I like mimed or pantomimed, like cursing, middle fingers, going crazy, like what the f, what, call a effing foul, and she like looked at me like, what, are you mad at me? I was like, oh my god, no, I didn't even know she did anything. I was purely looking on the game. So when I sit and watch Knicks basketball, I can be a little bit crazy. It is a regular season game. It is a back-to-back, but I take every game very seriously, most like most Knicks fans. So you want to see what EJ is like watching Knicks basketball, if that's ever something that's interested in you. Tune into the New York Got Game live stream tonight, the watch party we have, Knicks at Raptors, and see how I'm like. Or if you want to just hang out with your boy and we'll probably tell some stories. We'll probably have some fun analysis. We'll probably just kick it. Hang out with us, watch the game. Obviously, I don't think I assume they don't stream it on the actual show, but you have to put the game on your TV or your computer or wherever you're watching it. But watch along with us, man. We'll have a lot of fun with it. I know it's been, they've had some really fun shows with some of the other people they put on there, so I'm really excited about doing this. And shout out to Dexter Henry, who, again, I hope to have on 40 Days and 40 Nights at one point. He's done a phenomenal job with New York Post Sports. He's obviously done great stuff previously with The Fan and on Maggie and Perloff show, filled in as an update anchor. So I'm really excited to be locked in with my guy later tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun. But because of that, 40 Days and 40 Nights night 13 will be starting at 5 p.m. So 5 p.m. start. So if you show up at 6, the show will probably be close to coming to an end. So don't show up at 6, show up at 5. I'll put out the tweets. I'll put out all the alerts as much as possible to let everybody know that there's a change just for tonight. 5 p.m. start for 40 Days and 40 Nights night 13. And like always, again, the live stream right now on YouTube. Shout out to the people on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. If you could like this video, if you comment in the comment section, if you can do as many things as possible to give us engagement, it helps us a ton. So we greatly appreciate it. I'm not an engagement farmer. I'm not someone who's like, oh, I'm going to do something just to get likes and that. So I don't play that game. But I do know what the game is. And the idea is that if you push these videos, if you engage with these videos, that gets more people to check it out and supports the channel in a major way. So if you guys can like, comment, do everything you can do, that all helps us a ton. And we greatly appreciate that. So we got that. We're also on X, EJ_Stewart, where I'm also streaming live. If you watch me on X, make sure you follow me, EJ_Stewart on X. Also streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. I realized last night I don't believe I streamed live on Instagram. Apologies to the folks who watched me on Instagram and probably were like, wait, I missed the episode with Maggie Gray and you didn't stream live. Long story short, there's a button you got to press right before you click start the stream. And then I clicked the button to start the stream and realized I didn't click the other button. And I was like, I'm screwed. I can't start over. So I just go. So unfortunately, we didn't live stream, I don't believe, on IG last night. But we're on today now. We'll be on again at 5 p.m. So make sure you follow me on Instagram, Action EJ. Make sure you follow me on TikTok as well, Action EJ. And again, all these episodes get podcasted. So go to New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you'll search New Generation Podcast Network. And all the episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights will be on there. So if you're on the go, if you're on a run, if you're working out, if you're driving, whatever the case may be, you can always listen to the audio versions of this show. Again, just go to New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, man, that's it. That's going to do it for day 13 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This was an absolute fun one. Again, thank you guys for checking me out. We'll be back with night 13. Special time, 5 p.m. Be there or be square. Love you guys. I'll see you in a little bit.